to the District 4 Transportation Town Hall meeting. I would now like to call up your Orange County Mayor, Jerry L. Demings.
All right. Good evening to all of you. It is indeed an honor to welcome you here to the Orange County Renaissance Center. This is one of our fantastic amenities that we have in Orange County that has been built with your taxpayer dollars. So welcome to this center. This is primarily a center used by senior citizens, but many others in our community as well. This is the fourth opportunity that we've had to have a formal town hall meeting here within Orange County to discuss a transportation solution. Tonight, we want to hear from you. This is designed to get your input. We will share various information with you to kind of frame the issue that we see going forward. Orange County is a growing county, growing very quickly. In fact, the county is growing by nearly a net of about 1,000 new people each week. So if you take those who move in, those who move out, those who are born, and those who die, we have a net of 1,000 new people each week. That means that we have to plan adequately in order to address the issues. While tonight's town hall meeting is going to focus on solutions, we want to hear from you. But let's try to establish some common ground. First, how many of you here in this audience believe that we have a problem with traffic congestion? Would you raise your hand, please? Okay. That seems to be the overwhelming majority of you. How many of you want us as leaders, as elected leaders in this community, to tackle this issue and to do something about it? Raise your hands. Okay. The overwhelming majority again. So as I ran for Orange County Mayor, I filed in July of 2017. I was elected in August of 2018, so a little better than a year ago. I was sworn in December of last year. So during that period of time, I've listened to many, many people. But along the pathway of running to become the mayor, I attended some 1,000 plus community meetings. To date, I believe this is the 86th individual presentation that I have made concerning transportation solutions in this community. Before we conclude our work, we will have done this hundreds of times. Now, my ultimate goal is to really advance an initiative on the ballot for November of 2020. I guess that's about a year from now. I intend to advance a 1% or 1 penny sales tax that could help us with the solutions. We are not going to assume that we have all the answers. I want to hear from you what those priorities need to look like. Tonight, however, we're going to share the stage with our district commissioner, Commissioner Maribel Gomez Cordero, who represents this area. I'm going to ask her to come up and just say a few words to you as we begin this town hall meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I'm Maribel Gomez Cordero, the District 4 Orange County Commissioner, and I'm very happy to see you all here. Does anybody do not know English? Anybody that I need to talk in Spanish? No Spanish? We good? Okay. So, anyway, buenas noches a todos. I'm very happy to have you here, and this is, like the mayor said, one of many more that will be, scheduled for you all. And one of my main goals and my most important thing is that the community be informed of all the things that are going on in the county and any changes or anything that are needed, that you all know what's going on. I have to say that tonight is all about the mayor, because this is the transportation topic, and we want to cover it all in the time that we have. So if you have any question about the district, District 4 or anything, I have my staff here. I will be here around and we can discuss it later, but we want to focus and concentrate in the transportation, okay? So thank you for coming and I hope you enjoy tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. You know, I should have tried out some of my Spanish tonight. Let's see. Buenas noches a todos. As we move forward on the program tonight, we're going to have some of our staff members come up and just kind of share some background information with you. And then we will go to our moderator, Ms. Jane Wartrell, who will hopefully keep us on task tonight. This event is being televised, and so we're trying to be very precise in how we approach this. But there are individuals who will engage with us via the internet as well. So having said that, I'm going to ask Ms. Carla Bell Johnson to come forward, and she will walk you through some informational items, and then we'll move forward. Thank you so much.
So good evening. It is my pleasure to come and share with you a little information as background for what we hope to be a very engaging conversation on transportation. Orange County has a population of approximately 1.3 million people, making us the 5th largest county based on population in the state of Florida, so out of 67 counties. 90% of our population lives within urban areas in the county, with the remaining 10% in rural areas. If you look at the size of the county by land area, we cover nearly 1,000 square miles. There are also 13 municipalities, meaning our cities and our towns within the county, and there are approximately 87% of the people who live in Orange County actually work in Orange County. So our transportation system serves as an important purpose of connecting our residents to the jobs. So how is transportation currently funded? The big picture here is there are 5 key funding sources for our transportation system. Historically, the transportation funding sources that are more traditionally focused on transportation have been gas taxes and impact fees, which you see there. Gas taxes, of course, are the fuel taxes that we pay each time we gas up our vehicles. And impact fees are the fees that developers pay to reflect their impact on our transportation system. There are also a few restricted sources, such as community redevelopment areas, which we call CRAs, and other trust funds with very specific limitations on how those funds can be spent. More recently, because of the traditional transportation funding sources not being able to meet our ongoing transportation needs, we've increasingly relied upon some other sources, such as property taxes and sales tax, to meet those needs. Property taxes, which you may also know as ad valorem taxes, are the taxes we pay on property owned within the county. And sales taxes are the taxes paid on certain goods and services that we consume. So now that we know what the transportation funding sources are, let's talk about how these existing funding sources are currently used. When we think about transportation, there are a few key components of our transportation system in the county. They are roadways, resurfacing, traffic signals and intersection improvements and the technology that go along with those, bicycle and pedestrian safety needs, street lighting, and mass transit. In the next few slides, I'll explain a little bit more on each of those in detail. When we talk about our roadways in the county, there are actually 2,700 miles of county roadways in our county. And to give you some perspective on the cost of widening roadways, it costs more than $3 million per lane mile to widen a roadway. So if we're widening a roadway from 2 to 4 lanes in a very simple way, that roadway would cost about $12 million to get you 1 mile of roadway. When we look at our roadway network within the county, nearly 1 in 4 of our roads are failing, which means they are carrying more traffic than they were originally intended or designed to carry. So I want to point out right now in our conversation that our major highways like I-4, which is obviously well under construction now, and our toll roads, which are funded by the tolls that the drivers pay to use those roadways, are not what we're talking about in the context of this initiative. What's equally important as building roadways is, of course, being able to maintain them into the future. And the most visible representation of maintaining a roadway is resurfacing the roadways, which currently happens every 12 to 15 years. So the average cost of resurfacing a roadway is about $175,000 per mile. Last year in the county, we were able to resurface about 185 miles of roadway. But to keep up with the average lifespan of the concrete of a roadway and to avoid higher costs associated with having to rebuild roadways that have degraded and deteriorated due to lack of significant maintenance, we really should be resurfacing roads approximately every 10 years, which means we should really be resurfacing about 270 miles per year. Another key component of our transportation system are traffic signals and intersections and the intersection improvements and technology necessary to support those. So sometimes the congestion that we experience when we're in traffic is not just the roadway itself, but it's the intersections that cause delays. And so the more efficient we can make our traffic signals, the less delay we experience in traffic. There are 585 traffic signals in Orange County. The average cost of a new traffic signal is $350,000. And in order for the traffic signal systems to function properly and to communicate with each other so that they're sequenced, and as we approach them and move to the next one, ideally we continue to flow, in order for that communication to happen, fiber optic cable is necessary. There are about 240 miles of fiber optic cable in place within the county today. And just in the past year, we've been able to budget 15 intersection improvements, such as adding turn lanes and installing new traffic signals. Bicycle and pedestrian safety are also of critical importance. Unfortunately, in recent years, Central Florida has been consistently ranked at the top of a list that we don't want to be at the top of, and that's the list of most dangerous places in the nation for pedestrians, according to a Dangerous by Design report that's published annually. When we think about pedestrians, the most basic part of our transportation network that supports their needs are, of course, sidewalks. And sidewalks cost approximately $264,000 per mile to build. Last year, we were able to install 8 new miles of sidewalks. We also have a policy of incorporating bicycle facilities, such as bike lanes or multipurpose paths, within our roadway corridors to provide better and safer accommodations for bicyclists and pedestrians within our community. As it relates to safety, streetlights are something we know resonates with our community. We're currently on the end of a 5-year program to install street lighting along some of our major roadways. And, examples of major roadways are, things like Econ Trail or Golden Wide Road, et cetera. At the conclusion of the 5-year program that we're currently underway with, we will have lit 85 miles of roadway. However, there are well over 190 miles of unlit major roadways that remain. And we know there are additional needs over and above that for lighting intersections and crosswalks to address the pedestrian safety needs that I just spoke about at these crossings. Our transportation system is multimodal, and what we mean is that there are lots of different modes that people use to travel when we say multimodal. And mass transit is one of those modes. The county currently funds the LYNX bus system, utilizing property taxes. Approximately $55 million in county funding is actually budgeted for LYNX in this current fiscal year. Sunrail is also an existing mass transit mode within our region, and although the Florida Department of Transportation currently funds Sunrail operations, this responsibility is actually scheduled to transfer to the local government, so that's us, Orange County, and others, in the next few years. So that's going to require ongoing funding commitments for the county for continued operations of Sunrail. There have also been a number of additional mass transit options that have been studied in the past, such as additional rail connections into Northwest Orange County, additional east-west connections along roadways like State Road 50 and north-south connections on roadways like State Road 436. And all of those have not been able to be implemented because we've had a lack of funding. Whoops. Am I going back? So as I close on the topic of mass transit, I want to introduce Mr. Jim Harrison, who's the CEO of Lynx, and he can talk a little further about Lynx in particular.
Thank you, Carla. As Carla said, I'm Jim Harrison. And I'll spend just a few minutes here talking about public transportation and transit and some of the challenges that transit faces in this region. I'll talk mostly, as Carla mentioned, about the Lynx bus system. And Lynx is the working name for the Central Florida Regional Transportation Authority, which provides bus and other transit services to the county. And Lynx's goal is, of course, to provide safe and reliable transportation services to all Lynx customers across the region. Lynx serves the three-county area of Seminole, Orange, and Osceola counties, which includes just over 2,500 square miles and over 2 million people. Lynx has around 300 buses running on over 70 routes around the tri-county area. Lynx also has a number of flexible bus service areas called Neighbor Lynx across the region. With this system, Lynx provided over 25 million passenger trips last year. Like most agencies, Lynx has both a day-to-day operating needs and longer-term capital needs. That long-term capital need funding comes primarily from federal, state sources, but most of the funding for our day-to-day operations comes from local sources, and you heard Carla mention that. Over half of it, in fact, each year comes from local governments, most of that from Orange County. Another 17% comes from passenger fares, and this is a typical percentage for public transit across the nation. And the rest comes from sources like federal and state grants, advertising, contract services, and other. Let me tell you just a little bit about what that funding is used for. Lynx's primary mission is what we call our fixed route service. And these are the large buses, the 40-foot and 60-foot buses that you see all around the county. You may not be quite as familiar with the rest of the family of services. NeighborLink, which I mentioned earlier, is the flexible service that covers areas of the county that need transit but may not have the need for a full-size bus. Many of you have seen the limo system buses, which are part of the downtown Orlando BRT circulator. Our Vanpool commuter services program, which is essentially our carpooling service, is very popular and very successful. We provide Road Ranger service along I-4, and then, of course, Access Lynx, which is our door-to-door paratransit system for those most at need and disadvantaged in our community, many that can't access other services. System-wide, Lynx has a little over 4,300 bus stops. A little over a quarter of those stops have shelters at them. Lynx also has 9 super stops and 7 transfer centers, and of course the large central station downtown. Let me tell you a little bit about who rides Lynx on a day-to-day basis. Who takes those 25 million trips that I mentioned earlier? The majority of our riders are employed full-time, primarily in the service industries. Over 60% of our riders do not have access to a car. Half of our riders use Lynx as their primary method to get to work. and over half of our riders have to take 2 or more buses, making a transfer in order to complete their trip. And this is one of the most common issues that we hear about when we talk to folks about the bus system, is that it takes too long to make a trip. Folks have to wait too long between buses. So let me talk just a little bit about how often our buses run and the wait time between buses. You can see on this slide the large majority of our bus routes serving the regions have wait times of 30 minutes or more between buses. In fact, nearly half of those routes are 60 minutes or more between buses. Of the 70-plus routes that we operate, only 5 of these run 15 minutes or less. One of the reasons that we see these long waits between buses is that the Lynx transit fleet has not kept up with population growth in the region. As you heard Mayor Demings mention earlier, and as you know, Central Florida is one of the fastest growing regions in the nation. And naturally, with more people in the region, the Lynx buses are in the same traffic that's growing. So with less buses and more traffic, delays between buses has grown. Also, as our fleet has not grown with the region, our buses have also gotten older. The federal guideline for replacement of a bus is at least every 500,000 miles. However, nearly half of our fleet is over this mileage. We have outstanding mechanics that keep these buses safe and running, but that gets more expensive each year. So let me stop talking about buses for just a moment and talk very quickly about SunRail. And as Carla Johnson mentioned, SunRail is a system that will very soon become the responsibility of the local governments. And SunRail is, of course, the region's commuter rail system, which serves the Lynx Tri-County area, the same Tri-County area as Lynx, as well as one station in Volusia County. The route is about 49 miles long with 16 stations overall. If you take SunRail, you're probably aware that it's currently geared towards work commuters. So it runs only on weekdays. And the trains run every 30 minutes during the morning and evening rush hours. And then it's 90 to 120 minutes between trains outside of rush hour. And of course, there's no weekend or holiday service. So let me just kind of wrap up the transit portion of this presentation with a quick discussion and a quick look at how our funding compares with other similar regions. And this chart shows how other regions in the state and across the country with similar populations and service areas invest in transit. And the column in pink, the second column from the left, shows the regional investment per person in the region. And you'll notice that Central Florida is at the bottom of this particular list. So I just wanted to share a little bit, share this with you. On that note, I will close, and thank you all very much for your time here tonight, and I will return the podium to Mayor Demings.
Thank you, Jim. All right. Now, as we further have the conversation tonight, this conversation that we're having with you is really about the movement of people. How do we better move people in our community as we continue to grow? One of the numbers that I find somewhat startling is the fact that in addition to those who live here and work in our community, we have another 75 million people who come here on an annual basis from other places. Many of those individuals find themselves in automobiles on our roadway. The reason why I believe that the best method to determine a dedicated funding source for our transportation solutions is the sales tax is because it is projected that 51% or better of those who would pay the sales tax will be individuals who don't live here. They are not our permanent residents. They are the tourists who are coming here who are impacting our roadways. Now, some people ask us, why isn't it that we don't take money from other funding sources to help address this issue? What Carla Bell Johnson did was she was able to demonstrate to you that we don't have sufficient funding currently just to maintain the existing roadways that we have. In order to be that experimental prototype community of tomorrow that Walt Disney envisioned 5 or 6 decades ago, it would not be enough to have a funding source that would generate tens of millions of dollars. No, in order for it to be transformational, to get to the next level, we need billions of dollars. I want you to think about places around the world that you regard as a world-class community. Places like London, England, Paris, France, maybe a New York City, maybe even a Miami, maybe Atlanta, a Los Angeles, a Seattle, a Salt Lake City, Utah, a Pittsburgh. When you think about any of those places, there are many things that they have in common, but since the conversation tonight is about transportation, what they all have is a mass transit system, a fairly robust mass transit system. Here in Orange County, you probably would agree with me that we don't have one, but we should. Now, with 75 million visitors, to put that number into perspective, in 2018, the city of London, England, had somewhere around 20 million visitors. New York City had approximately 65 million visitors, and that's the largest city in the United States of America. So we are doing extraordinarily well, probably because of what we have to offer here. Those theme parks that are part of our community, part of our economy, they help bring people here. I saw a number just in the last couple of days that when we look at a rolling 12 months, our international airport brought in 49.9 million people. Nearly 50 million people came in through the airport alone. People are coming here for vacation to do business. Our business community and business opportunities are growing tremendously. With a transportation system or a system that is inadequate, we lose a little bit of our competitive edge when we don't have mass transit. When some corporations make a decision whether to relocate with high-paying jobs into a particular area, they look at a number of things. They look at the overall quality of life in that community. They look at crime. They look at the education system. They look at the housing, the cost of housing. They look at the transportation system in order to make those decisions. They look at the cultural amenities that we have. We have a lot of things going for us in this community, but I do believe that we can do better. We cannot adequately address the housing crisis that we currently have if we don't also address the transportation challenges that we have. So tonight, we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you about what are some of those things that if we pass this sales tax, it would generate just under $600 million on an annual basis. If we put our aspirational goal of being a world-class community with a mass transit system into reality, if we accomplish that goal together, we're going to have to pay for it. And it's, as you know, as you've seen, it's going to be a costly proposition. So we're going to talk further with you, and we want to hear your input at this point. I'm going to ask Ms. Jane Wottrell to come forward, and in order to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to be heard, she'll go over some rules with you, and we will respond to your questions. Between my staff and I, we should have an answer for you. And if we don't, we'll get an answer for you. How about that? All right. Jane Wottrell.
Thank you, Mayor. All right. So, as the mayor said, we want to hear from you. We've got a great crowd tonight. This meeting is an opportunity to hear your ideas on specific transportation solutions to improve our community. It's not a session to hear from us, the staff or the employees, about a specific transportation plan. We need your input to help us develop a plan, because there's no plan without your assistance. So the ground rules will be, Jeff Williamson, if you would please stand up. Raise your hand, get near Jeff, and line up. We will get your comments. Share your suggested solution in a constructive manner, which is going to be 2 minutes. So you see that you will be counted down. You'll see the countdown, and it won't begin until you begin talking. So please be brief, because we want to hear from as many people as possible. And over here, where the mayor is sitting, we have experts, and they will meet with you afterwards, but we do have experts here on hand with you to talk to you that will have more information should you desire it. Now, before we get to your solutions, we want to take a moment to talk about an issue that's been coming up at previous town hall meetings, and that is the Kirkman Road extension. We've heard a lot about this topic, and we want to call on Transportation Planning Manager Renzo Nastasi to explain what it is.
Thank you, Jane, and good evening, everybody. As Jane said, my name is Renzo Nastasi. I'm the Transportation Planning Manager, and I'd just like to spend a couple of minutes to give you a brief overview of the Kirkman Road extension. So Kirkman Road is proposed as a public-private partnership. That means that we intend to partner with private property owners, in this particular case it's Universal Studios by and large, and partner with them to fund the construction of the project. I want to emphasize that the Kirkman Road extension is not a unique project. We have over a dozen public-private partnerships that are either underway or we've completed. And just a few examples: County Road 545, also known as Avalon Road over on the west side of the county, Seidel Road, also on the west side part of the Horizons West area. And then we also have projects like Sunbridge Parkway here in East Orange County and Innovation Way. And again, the intent of entering in these projects is that it's more efficient sometimes to enter these public-private partnerships to expedite the improvement. And again, all of this is done through a negotiated agreement with the various property owners. A little bit of background on Kirkman Road. This roadway has been planned and contemplated for almost 20 years. As many of you know, if you've ever traveled in and around the I-Drive area, it's extremely congested. If you've ever driven on Sand Lake Road, for example, or the existing portion of Kirkman Road, I-Drive, etc., very congested area. You might imagine that with 75,000 employees just in the I-Drive area, that's a lot of cars every day, a lot of commuters. And just in Lockheed Martin, for example, there are 6,000 employees in that facility. Also, facilities like the Orange County Convention Center, the UCF Rosen College of Hospitality, Universal, the existing theme park, all of these things contribute to increased congestion in the area. This project is intended to extend from Carrier Drive on the north side all the way to Universal Boulevard. It's intended to be an 8-lane roadway, which includes 2 exclusive transit lanes, a complete reconstruction of the existing interchanges, several bridges, and major utility relocations. So because of the complexity of this project, it just makes sense to have a partner to address these very complex and costly issues. As you may have heard, this project is very expensive. It's $350 million. That's an estimated cost. We are still reviewing the plans to determine the exact cost, but nevertheless, it's a very expensive project. But I want to emphasize that the county contribution certainly is not the $315 million. Basically, it's broken down into $60 million of community redevelopment dollars. And again, as Ms. Carla Bell indicated, these are restricted dollars that can only be spent in that area. Similarly, there is a rebate for future revenues that will be generated by Universal Studios. And there is also a $25 million impact fee credit. Again, that credit is that process is very similar to all of our public-private partnerships. In essence, they will be creating additional capacity on that road, and as a reciprocal issue with them, then we give them the credits. And then finally, there's also $16 million that is generated or derived from the Florida Job Growth Grant, which Orange County received. The rest of the balance will be Universal Studios' responsibility to address. With that, I'll turn it back to Ms. Motrell. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Now, as we've mentioned a few times, thank you, Renzo. This is a live broadcast, and we know you're passionate about transportation, or you wouldn't be here, but we want to remind you this is a family show. As you give us your valuable input, I want you to look to the rear of our facility here. You'll see that we've divided the topics into 6 areas, and there are people back there that will be writing it down, scribing exactly what you said, because that's going to go into our plan. The topics are public transportation, pedestrian and bike safety, roads, technology, traffic signals, and streetlights, intersection, and then other. Many of you took a survey when you first came in. We'll be reading some of those comments and your questions from that survey. We want to let the audience know at home that you can be part of this and fill out a survey at ocfl.net/transportation. If you're following us tonight on social media, the hashtag is OCTransportation. So we'll try to get to as many comments as possible, but if you don't hear your question read, we keep these cards. They become part of our file. We log your comments and concerns. So I just want to read one of the cards to get us started, and then we'll get to the good folks that are lined up. So a woman named Carmen de Garcia writes, there are traffic problems on Young Pine Road. So if you could write that down, obviously a resident from this area. Can anybody clap if they understand what that's about in this area? Young Pine Road? Yes? Okay, that seems to be a problem. Laura Cabrera writes that more street lights at night. People cross the street and you don't see them and they can be hit. Can I have some applause for that? Does that seem to be a problem down in District 4? Okay, thank you. And then just quickly, how many of you take public transportation who are in our audience tonight? Okay, I see about 3 or 4 hands. Okay. Lynx, could you raise your hand if it's Lynx? Okay. Sunrail? Okay, so about 2 or 3 for Sunrail and 1 for Lynx. So I have to assume, and could you raise your hand, how many people use a car or a vehicle to get where they need to go? Okay, that seems to be everybody. So we're talking about motorists here. So, all right, so thank you, and let's get to the first comment. Jeff, who do we have?
Jane, we have Tom, and just want to remind everyone that each individual speaker will have 2 minutes to talk. There is a clock over there. Once it begins beeping, your time is up. The line will certainly grow as the night goes forward, so we want to encourage everyone to make their comments as brief as possible, and we'll do our best to answer all those questions of those who are in line. Tom is first.
Okay,
Tom.
thank you, Tom.
Good evening. It's unfortunate I only got 2 minutes because I have to talk about a suggestion I sent in that nobody's responded to, so now I got to waste some time on that. I was asking that you get a written agreement from both Sunrail and Lynx for all the money we give them. We want some accountability. We want a cost-effective plan. Every year it's the same thing, deficits, dipping into the reserves. This is all our money, and yet we don't get no accountability. It's the inherent obligation of this county to account for the money that we give out. And yet I have to spend a good 30, 40 seconds here talking about something I wrote to you about this week. and nobody's gotten back to me. I write suggestions every other week. Nobody gets back to me. Then I got to come to these meetings and waste valuable time talking about something that nobody from Orange County desires to address. Now, my other subject, I want to talk about, you want $365 million from us every year, but I'm concerned about your accountability. Nobody is showing us. You're not prioritizing for the people. Once again, your legal, moral, ethical obligation is for us, not in this particular case, Universal. And let me explain why. UCF College at the corner of Alafaya and University Boulevard have had serious accidents there. Kids have got injured, kids have died. We've been begging for a pedestrian bridge over there. We're not getting anything yet from here. Then I research, and I find out in 2014, 2015, we gave millions of dollars to Universal to put a pedestrian bridge that is solely on their private property. It goes from the Cabana Resort Hotel to the entertainment parks. Does not serve the public at all. Now, the report said they got $4.5 million from Orlando and $9 million from Orange County. Did we know about that? No. If that's the case, what do we get out of that $9 million? They built a pedestrian bridge solely for a private corporation. Then you come up here and say, oh, could you please, support our desire for taxes? This is outrageous.
Tom.
Your performance here really is a disservice to the people.
Tom, so your solution, before you go, one of your solutions is to get some sort of pedestrian safety aspect over by the Rosen School of Hospitality. That is a solution you gave us?
No, UCF College, University Boulevard, and Alafaya Trail.
Thank you,
Kids
sir.
are dying there, and you're giving our money to Universal.
Okay, thank you. We have that written down.
Jane, you ready for the next person?
Yes.
Jane, this is Reggie.
Hey, Reggie.
Hello. Basically, I have not really so much of a question as a number of comments.
And I hope they're solutions.
Well, possibly, if they're implemented.
Okay.
The themes basically is cooperation and coordination, and I'm not seeing a lot of it here. Individually, yes, but not in the whole system. I'm not seeing a transportation commissioner here that works with everybody. What I'm seeing is I call it silo thinking, where each person, each division, Lynx is here, Sunrail, I was representative, but I don't think they're here. But the toll roads, they're not here. So each presentation is at their own individual theme or mode when we need somebody that combines all of them together to coordinate them all together.
So a solution would be to have a transportation czar.
A transportation czar.
Okay, we'll write that
commissioner.
down.
The view, let's see, on the toll roads, I don't see anybody, time-wise here, I don't see any tracks being put on the toll roads or space for them, for either cable cars or tracks. I don't see buses on the toll roads with bus stops at the major intersections. They could coordinate the bus traffic and have expressways on the buses that people could stop at Cimarron and the 408 and then go north from there. And
That's an excellent solution.
They don't have to wait 60 minutes. But I don't see buses. I see toll roads with cars only. And I'm kind of wondering about that.
But you're asking on 436 to have express lanes.
What I'm asking for is for the bus system to work with the Florida Expressway. My issue is with the Florida toll roads because they're a fiefdom and they have politics involved and they don't work with the other modes of transportation. That's the problem I see here. We're becoming more and more like LA, where the solution is more roads, more lanes, and that's not the solution. It's mass transit.
Okay, thank you. Good job. Before Sally talks, I've got a question to the group to provide a detailed plan for Lynx and Sunrail before asking for more money. Mayor Demings?
Okay. Really, the purpose of the meeting tonight really is to elicit from you some ideas or concepts as we get that from throughout Orange County and the various community or public meetings that we're having. What we will do is develop in consultation with our municipalities a spending plan that includes projects. we can't really do that until we get your input. We could have worked and come up with the plan ourselves, and then we would have been trying to sell you something that maybe isn't something that you really desire. So we're doing it the opposite way around. We're listening from you, listening to you, and receiving input from you that we will use to develop that plan of action. And this is just a process. Again, we're looking towards November 2020, but probably 6 months before November, that plan will be very detailed and it will be presented so that when the electorate goes to the ballot booth in November, they'll know what they are voting for and how those funds will be spent. There'll be plenty of transparency, plenty of accountability that will be built into that itself. So the gentleman who spoke just previously, who talked about he doesn't see light rail or rail tracks along the expressway corridors, well, that's something that we perhaps can do, but all of that will require dollars. There are corridors built into these expanded roadways with 528 or the Beach Line, et cetera, that really have corridors that have been pre-planned that potentially could have rail or commuter rail within those corridors that currently exist. But until we have the funding to be able to pay for that, that's just something that is really a dream that we have as a community. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, Jeff.
All right, Jane. Thank you, Mayor. Jane, I have Sally.
Mayor Dimmings, at the last meeting, you ended it by saying, just trust me. And I told you, based on things I've seen, I have a hard time trusting the county commission and any politicians when it comes right down to it. And the reason is we see reckless spending of money. We got to understand what the problem is here. And I guess I should go ahead and say, just for the record, I adamantly oppose this transportation tax because I think we're not spending our money wisely. When it comes to Sunrail and the bus system, Sunrail was way too soon. It doesn't serve nearly enough people. It cost an awful lot of money. It's all going to be on our shoulders in 2021. Volusia County has already backed out of it. They're not going to be part of it. And yet we don't have the bus system to support it. Many of us back then said, get a bus hub system in place. One of your solutions is a bus hub system that would allow the private sector to participate. Nobody wanted to do that. At the same time, I got to go back to the other issue when it comes to how we're spending money. We don't manage growth. That's a big part of it. We give all sorts of freebies and waiving impact fees and all sorts of deals like that for those coming in here, where we should not be funding anything to do with Universal. They are a private sector. We're confusing the private sector in the role of government. We should not be funding the private sector. The public-private partnerships that were mentioned, those are a very bad deal for the taxpayers. It sounds wonderful, but we're the ones left holding the bag when they don't pay the thing. I have many solutions. There's no way I can cover all the solutions in 2 minutes, but there's definitely ways we could fund roads better and definitely ways we could develop mass transit better if we let a group of citizens come together on a community board and really work it out. I can't give you the solutions in 2 minutes. I can tell you the problem, reckless growth, we do not manage the growth correctly, and we give our money away to the private sector. Billions and billions of dollars to Universal, Amazon, Tavistock, all these major developers, and we're left out, hung out to dry. So spend the money on us. Spend our money on us. Let the private sector pay for their own bills.
Thank you, Sally. Okay, Jeff.
Jane, I have Charles.
Hey, Charles.
Charles,
Good evening.
Emergency Rapid Response Team. Well, the federal government forgot one thing, the Council 3's motto, a new conceptus, which is the back of a $1 bill right below the eye of Providence. A new conceptus means new concepts, new ideas. Federal government is barbaric, and they forget where they are. They use funding from 60 years ago. Oh, the best way I have fund is expand the roads. Expansion of the roads is not the solution. It is the problem. We're $200 billion, which I hear Orange County is going to be getting from the federal government grants. It should not go for expansion of roads. It should go right to links to Jim Harrison to get more buses on the road. If you don't have the buses, you don't have the transportation system, you're going to keep on causing the problem. I've been doing a ton of studies on this. You make even I-4 8-lane roads, you're still going to have congestion. It's still going to be a parking lot. I call it the I parking lot because it's not even an interstate anymore. It should be called the P4 for the parking lot 4. Because here's the thing, put the money in transit because then you'll have the problem solved. That's the solution. If you're putting the billions of dollars into mass transit, you're still going to have congestion and you're still going to be back in the Stone Age. Because we're right now in the Stone Age still because we're thinking, oh, you expand the road? No, expansion is not the solution. It is the problem.
Okay. Thank you, Charles. Next.
Jane, I have Micah.
Hey, Michael. Good evening.
Good evening. The mayor's opening statement, I think, said it all. When Disney came here in the 70s, they did a great thing for not only our community, but our state in Orange County. I would agree with the mayor. We need a mass transit system. I'm very open to the public comment, which is great for we the people, but we the people are forgetting we don't pay state taxes, which are in other states in the Northeast maybe 7 to 10% of their income. So I would gladly give a penny to keep us a world-class city. And as a traveler, most of my destinations when I get off, or should I say when I pick that destination, I want a hotel or wherever I'm going to stay close to maybe the subway or a transit system. Growing up, I went to Apopka High School in 1985, driven these streets hundreds of miles a day for 25 years, home to home, which I get to the easel boards. Last meeting, we got a chance to stop and talk to those people, so I'd rather 3 minutes like the BCC. Roundabouts prevent fatal accidents, 90% in the statistics. Windermere on the west side, here on the east side, East Point, and some of the other communities put roundabouts. The statistics and probably the cost from $300,000 for a light, which the flow of traffic goes quicker as well.
So you're saying roundabouts is one of your solutions, so we can write that down.
It would definitely be a solution.
Okay.
So running out of time, Lynx, speaking at the last meeting, green electric vehicles save not only maintenance time, mass amount of money, and fossil fuels. So going to Apopka High School and running out of time, driving down OBT, Orange Blossom Trail, the blossoms were so overwhelming we would roll up our windows and put our windshield wipers on. Now the carbon fallout from the vehicles is overwhelming, and the pedestrians, et cetera, and so on. So being from Orange County for most of my life, 4 decades, I get to the experimental prototype community of the future. Here we are 4 decades later, and we're still driving vehicles we can't get around because we're in this prehistoric, the taxpayers versus the big corporations. Those corporations save us millions of dollars in income taxes per person.
Thank you. So electric vehicles is another solution. We'll make sure we've written that down.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Jeff.
Jane, I have Darnell.
Darnell, welcome.
Hi, my name is Darnell. I'm from Landstar, Orange County. My biggest question is about trust. I will not vote to raise my own taxes unless I trust that you will spend my money wisely. When I read the headline, Universal Orlando gets a new road, you might get higher taxes. I don't feel the trust. My question is, why won't you fight for a better deal for county taxpayers?
So you're talking about accountability. Mayor, do you want to address the fact that if this would pass, there would be accountability?
Well, you know, there's a number of people in the audience, I think, that misunderstands how this really works. First off, you all keep saying that we're going to write a check to Universal Studios. Orange County isn't going to write a check to Universal Studios. Universal Studios will be writing a check to us to pay for the roadways. And sometimes I think we do ourselves a disservice as a community. I've been here. I've lived in this community now all of my life, which predates the era of Disney, predates the era of Universal Studios. And the gentleman who just spoke a few moments ago, he's exactly right. Orlando would not be the Orlando it is today. In fact, many of you who were not born here, who were not raised here, you likely would not be here today if it were not for really the beauty of some of these theme parks that we have here in this area. I can tell you that my family and I have worked at these theme parks. It has allowed us to go to school, to get an education, and be where we are standing here today. And I just think that it's sometimes a bit unfair to say that somehow this is, they're terrible for our community. I don't agree with that. I'm going to tell you here tonight, I don't agree that these businesses that have chosen to move here, they do bring jobs. They impact our economy in a very positive way and significant way, billions of dollars. I've seen these organizations give back to our community in the way of providing funding to our children's programs, providing funding to our public high schools and other institutions, to our boys and girls clubs and YMCAs and the like, that we all have the benefit and the privilege of experiencing here in this community. It is part of making us a better community. Now, we have the dilemma of the growth that we've enjoyed so much. But I think going forward, we want solutions. In terms of accountability, listen, we're the only county in Florida that has an elected comptroller, an elected auditor, that whenever funds are spent in this county, there are audited records and books. There is tremendous transparency. The conversations that we're having tonight really is all about transparency. When was the last time you went to a community meeting, except for the few of you who have been to all of these transportation town hall meetings? How often do you go and you get involved and where you have the opportunity to interact in this manner with your local government? How often do you do that? In terms of transparency, we're being very deliberate and intentional in taking our time to come to you and explain to you, get your input about how we're going to spend these dollars if it passes. Be hundreds of meetings. So this notion that somehow it's been done in the dark, no, it's been done in public settings. As we go forward, you'll hear much more about what those solutions will look like. We have a very talented staff with Orange County that can execute the broad plans that we have. And so that's why we're here tonight. So hopefully I address some of the issues to all of you as we move forward. So again, thank you. We do appreciate your input. Whether you vote for this or not, whether you support it or not, you'll have that opportunity to make your own individual decision about whether you want to vote for it. But when I first opened up this tonight, we asked you all how many of you want us to do something about it. And almost every person's hand went up. So do you mean that? Is what I'm asking you. Do you mean that you want us to do something about it? Doing something about it does not mean that we do nothing. It doesn't mean that we get a free pass, that it won't cost money. No, it will. It will. So we've been as transparent as I possibly can be. I want you to understand that. There's no other methodology where 51% of it gets paid by the people who are coming here and helping to clog up our roadways. No better way to spend that. Otherwise, if we don't do the sales tax in order to address these issues that you all are bringing up, you know who gets to pay for 100% of it? All of you sitting out here. In order to have meaningful solutions, you all would pay for it through your property taxes or some other means. Think about that for a moment. Or, if there's no money to address the solutions, guess what happens? They get worse. The problems we have are going to get worse because we're continuing to grow. They get worse. You think it's bad now. It will get worse. So which community you want to live in? You get to choose. You get to vote on it. You will get to vote on it later.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Jane, I
Yes.
have Norma next. Jane, it's Norma.
Norma?
Yes.
Welcome, Norma.
Good evening. My main concern, first of all, mass transit is my thing. I lived in the UK for many years, and every time I go back, I don't need a car there. But it's different there because they didn't have Disney. They still don't. It just grew. They know they have planned. Now, over here, Disney came. I think the people should have known that this was going to grow. And it's kept growing and growing and approving houses. When I moved here on Econ, it was all cows. Now it's houses, but nothing was done on the roads. Econ Trail is a mess every day. And Lake Underhill is the same because they keep adding houses and approving. So why don't we work on the roads? Because now Lake Underhill between Chickasaw and Dean cannot be widened. Yet all of these houses are being approved and built. And so we need to stop that and deal with the transportation, because if we keep adding houses, we're not going to have room to expand. The other thing I want to address is that the Kirkman Road project, it said it was $315 million, 125 came from the county and others. I outed, that came in to 266. I subtracted, and it's 44 million that Universal pays, less than half.
That's not correct. It's 125 million. Yes, let's go back to the.
Thank you.
But thank you for your comment, and I hear you about Econ Road. Here's the breakdown. So county contribution 125, and then we do the breakdown within that 125. Florida Job Growth Grant is 16. Universal's responsible, so you add those up, and Universal's responsible for all the rest. It appears to be. That's how things are going. It's still in a state of flux, and you will know when the county commission will be voting on it. You will have more of that plan. But thank you for bringing that up, and thank you for talking about Econ. I have a comment card here that echoes exactly what you said from Mary Boeza, who says, I live in Valencia Gardens and noticed new construction of apartment buildings, plus Valencia College is right here. Econ is a single-lane road, and that's exactly, so if we could write that down, people are very frustrated with Econ. Can anybody, any applause to that? Do people here drive Econ? Can we, okay, then that is definitely an issue that we will write down. Thank you. Jeff, who do we have?
Thank you, Jane. Jane, we have Wanda. Yes. Wanda.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mayor Demings and Commissioner Cordero for this town hall. I live on Dean Road. We have a traffic problem, we have a transportation problem, but I do not want to throw my taxes to actually benefit or being spent on priorities of corporations and on the Universal Road. It was said that those funds are restricted, and but I think the county commission controls the community redevelopment agency that spends those funds. So my question is, will you move those funds to be spent on public transit or affordable housing instead of on one road?
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Wanda.
Okay, who do we have next?
Jane, I have David.
Abe?
David.
David, I'm sorry. Hi, David.
King
Welcome.
David.
Yes. I wanted to thank you for your commitment to mass transit because we're desperate need of that. I live in Meadow Woods near the Sunrail station, which is awesome. The problem that we have there around that area is that there are two roads. There is Orange Avenue and Landstar. Orange Avenue is a speed limit of 50. Landstar is 40 miles per hour, and neither one has a bike lane. So the safest thing you can do as a bicyclist is take up the entire lane, which everybody hates, but that's the safest thing you can do. So my question and comment, I guess, was can we build bike lanes, more bike lanes, and also have divided bike lanes too, which a lot of cities are moving towards. Ideally, to increase the ratio of women and children who feel safe bicycling. That's a lot of the ratio that a lot of cities use. Like New York did this on a few streets, and it worked really well for them. So that was my feedback about last mile transportation near bus stops and Sunrail stations. Thank you.
So David, so we're clear, because people are writing down while you're talking. You want designated bike lanes on, did you name Landstar and Orange? Is there anywhere else, or just on the side streets? Do you have a little more specific?
That's specifically where I live, but this is actually a problem with many of the Sunrail stations. There's just no way to get anywhere safely. But yeah, it's last mile transportation, and especially divided bike lanes, where there would be some sort of division, either parked cars or there's like shrubs and stuff they put too. So.
Okay.
I think that calls for a subject matter expert.
Yes.
I see Christy Lofi's getting up.
Yes. And David, thank you, because you
David,
brought
for
this
that comment.
topic up
Appreciate
tonight that, you know,
Mike's up
people
there,
care
Christy.
about.
Well, I have good news on that question, because the county is kicking off second phase of its pedestrian and bicycle safety action plan. And that second phase is looking at developing a bicycle network. So trying to find locations where we can add bike lanes, where we can look at some protected bikeways, and connecting them together so that people can feel safer and more comfortable riding their bikes as an alternative to cars.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Christy.
Jane, we have Terrence, and who is specifically saying he's from New York. I don't know why
Terrence
that's
from New
important,
York.
but he's saying that
Welcome.
he's from New York. I think there are many of us who have lived in
I hope
that
you're
city.
not missing the Yankees game, or if there's a...
Oh, boy, I want to watch that. Oh, okay. I've got two questions. The number 10 bus going down 10th Street turns before it gets to Narcoossee. Okay. And I could never understand why the Lynx wouldn't bring a bus down to Narcoossee and then have a bus going up Narcoossee to go all the way into Orlando. It makes smart. It'd be like a ring. Also, transponders on buses, so you could have a little stand like they have in New York and everywhere, tell you how far that bus is away and the time. Because the way you have it structured down at the bus stop is a little dangerous for a lot of people, especially at night. Thirdly, final one. Problem is with Florida, nobody likes to pay. Okay? Nobody likes to pay state tax, city tax, but they want everything.
Right.
Okay? And that's a big issue. And the reason why New York City is putting in a tremendous amount of red cameras and speeding cameras. Orlando is now the worst place for pedestrians classified in the United States. So you can't talk mass transit without talking about protecting pedestrians. The driving here is horrific. Really bad drivers and everything else, and a lot of people. I just recently had a friend killed. Okay, so this is the deal. Put up the red light cameras. The only one that's going to get a ticket is the one who broke the law. You're protecting pedestrians. Put up the stoplight, the red cameras, and this way you can raise funds and put it towards public transportation. Thirdly, and you're also helping protect the citizens here. Thirdly, the law of 1811 in New York was the law that actually designed the way the city was built. I didn't know about it until I moved to Orlando, and I wanted to appreciate it more.
Okay.
Oh, well. I wish you would study that law.
Okay.
It'll give you an idea. It took it away from the public here, the landowners and everything else. They sent it upstate. They came back with a plan in 4 years. It's well known as to why that plan is so well.
Okay. Terrence, I want you to hang on 1 second, because I understand that I think Lynx does have an app, does it not? Could somebody from Lynx please come up and address the fact
Everybody have a cell phone.
There,
Poor, they take it.
there is an app, though, that tells you how far
But not everybody. The poor people I see in those bus stops, which will be the 25% paying the sales tax, okay? 51% by the people that visit. Sure. But unfortunately, the poor are going to be paying that sales tax too, okay? I'm telling you right now, you've got to make a decision to protect the public. You're number one. It's going to come to a point. People are going to stop coming here. I have people from New York saying they will not come to Orlando again. They came down last year, and they will not come again because they drove on the roads.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Terrence.
Thank you.
Is that Brooklyn or Bronx? Where's that accent from? Brooklyn, all right. Just
Okay.
asking, just
Thank
asking.
you. Thank you, sir. Okay.
Jane, I have Carmen.
Carmen, hello. Welcome.
Good evening. I am the Carmen de Garcia that wrote the letter for transportation. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Mayor Jenin, and Commissioner Cordero for having this meeting here. It seems to be time for us to be able to speak up and let you know our concerns. We have a lot of concerns here. One of the ones that I would like to focus tonight is on Young Pine Road.
Yes.
I have been in the area since early 2000. The developers have built apartments, have built housing, have built a park from the county, and they have not taken care of the lighting on Young Pine Road. That road has no lighting. We had, since 2018, we had 20 reported accidents, fatal accidents in that area of Lamberton and Young Pine. It is a very dangerous and a hazardous to our community, to our children. We have a bus stop there. Kids are there at 6 o'clock, and the speed limit is 50 miles per hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to let you know that I have a lot of frustrations because I have been going through all the channels. 311 reported 3 times this year. I have contacted the commissioner's office. I have followed up with emails. Serious of things that I don't want to bother you tonight, but something have to be done on that road. From lighting to a curb that is 50 miles per hour that needs some blinking light or something. Studies have been done, and the response is always, there is no money, or we are doing a study. So should be a lot of studies there.
Thank you.
Back up.
Thank you for bringing it to our
Thank you.
attention. It is written down. Thank you.
Jane, we have Hillary Morris. Hillary.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Demings and staff, for coming out this evening to listen to hear our input from the community. I just got back from visiting Chicago for 18 years, and I don't remember anyone from Cook County ever coming out and seeking our thoughts, ideas, and opinions about transportation in Cook County. So thank you so much. I have a question from the Lynx presentation a little bit earlier, and said, they identified again that our city is different than cities like LA and New York that have extensive mass transit systems to serve their populations. How is it that they are able to fund their transportation and growth concerns, but we can't? Perhaps we should look at some of their solutions and approaches in this process. Third, anyone who lives in this area knows how congested Lake Underhill Road is every day from 6 to 9 a.m. and to 4 to 7 p.m. One of the major east-west routes that parallels 408. What can we do as citizens to accelerate the widening of the 2-lane sections of Underhill to 4 lanes to relieve the congestion that we live with each and every day as we hear? Thank you.
So your solution is definitely widen Lake Underhill, and then you want to hear from Lynx.
And how can we as citizens accelerate this? Because I know it's said, hey, there's no money, there's no money, there's no money.
Right.
Is there anything that we can do as citizens to try to move that forward so it's done at an earlier pace?
Okay.
Thank you.
Does someone from Lynx want to talk about why we are where we are? And please come up here, Jim, and there is a microphone.
Well, certainly, and the very short answer to why is Central Florida different from, say, New York or LA, as was mentioned, it's a very simple answer. It's one-word answer, and that's funding. In a place like New York, and I just got back from New York myself, they have, they have a income tax, they have sales tax that they dedicate towards the transit system. Here in Central Florida, we've chosen not to do that. And that's the question I think that Mayor Demings is asking of you all right now, these days. So hope that helps.
Thank you.
Let me chime in there.
He's got
this
a
mic,
mic.
Jim.
He's good. Thank you, Jim.
The difference between us and many of the other cities is the fact that they have dedicated funding sources. Now, let me share something with you. Not one of those mass transit systems in the other communities is paid for solely by the individuals who ride that system. In fact, from the fare box, the people who pay to ride it on a daily basis, in every one of those systems, it's less than probably 20% of the total cost to operate that system. Where do they get the rest of the money from? They get it from dedicated funding sources. They either have city taxes, they have state taxes, or they get federal dollars to supplement the cost of what the ridership actually pays for. So not one of those systems is self-sustaining based on the people that ride it on a day-to-day basis. Our system here will not be self-sustaining either. The only way that we can do what they're doing is to have a dedicated funding source. Yes, we have studied what they have done around the country. We have studied what we're doing here in the state of Florida. Every other urban county already has some dedicated funding source for this same issue that we're talking about. In fact, right here within our own metro area, Lake County already has transportation surtax. Seminole County already has one. Believe it or not, so does Osceola. Orange County has one of the lowest sales taxes in the entire region today. Hillsborough County just passed a tax this past November, and their tax rate, their sales tax rate is now 8.5%. Anybody here know what it is in Orange County? 6.5. Anybody know what it is in Osceola County? 7.5%. Okay. And so all of these are the things that you have to kind of take into consideration when you are provided with the information, factual information, not the emotional arguments that sometimes you'll hear, but factual information. We are going to provide you with factual information upon which you get to make a decision on. Okay?
Okay, who
So
do we
you
have
you
next?
a chance to talk. It's last and certainly
Okay.
not least.
Yes.
Jane, we have Bianco. Bianco.
Bianco, welcome.
All right. My question is about the Sanrail. They just opened a few years ago. It's nice. I go with my grandkids. Why the Sanrail don't go to the airport? The mayor said they have 50 million people arriving in the airport every year. Where is the Sanrail? No. All big city, the train is under the airport, connected with the city. Downtown, International Drive, all this part. So I don't need to go to airport, the congested traffic, to pick up my wife. She can take the same rail, pick her up here in Winter Park. The traffic in the airport go down. Don't make sense to me to be building millions of dollars. You have 50 million people over there. The same rail don't arrive. International Drive have thousands of hotels. Same rail don't go there. Second question, why, I read several times in the radio, why we don't have the high-speed train connect the airports? Tampa, Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. Why don't give me the choice to buy the ticket, the airport that I like? Maybe it's cheaper to fly from Fort Lauderdale. I don't need to fly for Orlando. Now I need to drive, take hours to arrive. But where is the high-speed train? Any developed country have a high-speed train. You choose. When I go to Germany, I can fly straight to Stuttgart or straight to Frankfurt. They have a high-speed train. connect the city under the airport. Don't need to move. Just go down, pick the high-speed thing, go to the other airport. Why you don't have this here? Orlando is not a toddler anymore. It's a big city. Need to thinking like a big city, not like a toddler.
Thank you, sir.
Bianco.
So the solution would be to please connect the airport in some way, shape, or form to rail. So Mayor, we are done with the comments, and I know you're going to wrap things up.
Okay,
and
let me go back to, I'll address his issue. There's a private venture, Virgin Trains, that is going to connect Miami to Orlando, and the train will end at the International Airport. The intermodal center is already built. There's also another private venture involving Virgin Trains that will connect Tampa to Orlando. Where those trains are going to go is going to be based upon public-private partnerships and connectivity. So in the near future, you'll see these major cities in Florida connected by a commuter rail network. Again, the intermodal center is already built here at the International Airport. But within Orange County, I want you to think about SunRail. In order for us to improve the ridership of SunRail, it's going to have additional connectivity. Each one of those spurs, his question was, why doesn't the airport, why isn't the airport connected to SunRail? Why isn't the airport connected to International Drive? Cost. It will cost anywhere from $250 million to probably $400 million plus per spur. What part of the vision is for us here is to be able to use the revenues from these tax dollars to perhaps plan a spur that would go east or west off of the main SunRail line that currently exists. But in order to do that, again, we're talking significant dollars to be able to do that. More than what we can just simply find in our budget. It's not tens of millions, it's billions of dollars to be able to do that. If we said we're going to pay for this through our property taxes, I don't know how many of you want us to raise your property taxes, but if we raise your property taxes, a full meal will bring in $144 million on an annual basis. A half meal will bring in $72 million on an annual basis. This sales tax, just under $600 million, with 51% of it paid by somebody else. It's not coming out of your pocket. And even at the $600 million, that is not enough money long term to do everything that you all have brought up here tonight that needs to be done. Even at that, that's not everything. But what we would do is run concurrent strategies. One, to better connect ourselves with our existing SunRail, to improve the service of links, to improve our roadway connectivity. But then we'd also run a concurrent track where we would be going after federal dollars to help us fill the gap. The process to get the federal dollars is a long, lengthy process. We will have to be planning now in order to get into that process before we would see a dime of the federal dollars for a concurrent system. It would take a decade probably before you will really be able to see the impact of those dollars flowing into our community. I feel like we don't have a decade to wait. Someone here said to us a few moments ago, stop building houses. Well, let me tell you, it's not that simple. If we stop building houses, people are going to be homeless. We need those houses. We have a deficit of affordable homes in our community today. Now, how many of you in this audience tonight moved here in the last 25 years and you came from somewhere else? Raise your hands. So when you say shut it off, who y'all talking about shutting it off? You talking about yourselves? You saying you moved here. And people like you decided to move here with your families for a reason. Yes, you're right, Sally. The last time I did say to you, I was a law enforcement officer in this community for nearly 4 decades. There were times when, yes, I had to make life or death decisions. I don't know how many of you in this room have had to make a decision whether somebody lives or dies, but I have. And I said, I asked people to trust me when I was making those decisions. I'm going to say it again tonight, Sally. I want you to trust me when I say that this is a good thing for our community. This will be something that children who will enter kindergarten or first grade now, years from now, they'll appreciate the visionaries that we were. They'll appreciate the fact that we look forward. Someone talked about the environment. Yes, with a mass transit system, we will get people out of singular automobiles. We will improve our air quality long term. We will do a better job of protecting our environment. If we do this, if with a well-connected transportation system, we could build centers of commerce where people live close to where they work, and they don't have to get in an automobile. And then we can connect those centers around this county with alternative modes of transportation where they no longer need perhaps an automobile. Do we desire to continue growing? Things that's growing means that you're still alive. The moment this community stops growing is the moment that we are one step closer to dying. I didn't attribute that to you, Sally. Did I say Sally said? I didn't say. I was making the statement. Can I finish, Sally? Okay. Okay. I was making the statement, okay, that the moment this community stops growing is the moment we start dying as a community. Then we end up with, like every other industrial city around America, where the commerce went somewhere else, you end up with a lot of social problems that the few who get left behind get to deal with. The beauty of what we're trying to do here, we're trying to continue to be a thriving community where there's this convergence of culture, clean energy, alternative modes of transportation, beautiful, wonderful, walkable neighborhoods where we can all live and be proud of where we live. That's what we're trying to do here. So, I say to you once again tonight, you all are going to be faced with a choice as a community. We stay frozen in time and allow this community to continue to deteriorate, or we advance this community to that world-class community that I know we can be if we all contribute in a small way to that process. Not everybody's going to vote for the sales tax. There's going to be some people who are going to say, I'm not voting for it. But I'm banking on the fact that the majority of the people in this community will understand what we're trying to do, and they'll vote for it. So we'll see. Stay tuned. I encourage you to continue coming to the town hall meetings. This isn't the last of them. We will continue to engage our community over time, and by the spring, we will have some very detailed plans, and then we'll move this issue forward. Okay, so thank you all again. Thank you, Orange TV. Thank you to our wonderful sign interpreters. Come on up. They did a fantastic job because of those people who are watching tonight. Thank you all very much for being here. We'll see you at the next one.